Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in to our Google AdWords Hangout on Air. My name is Danny. I am an Associate Account Strategist here at Google, helping businesses optimize their account performance with Google AdWords. Today, we're going to talk about having more control over your results in our Hangout on Air session 2. So just a quick rundown of what's going to be discussed in our agenda. We're going to talk about first, defining key performance metrics. Then we're going to define conversions for your business and what a conversion should mean for your business. After that, we're going to move over to implementing conversion tracking. And then last, we're going to talk about understanding conversion data and all the different metrics we could use to understand conversions. So I just want to remind you guys that this is a live Hangout on Air session. So definitely feel free to ask questions via our app or post them on our event page. And if you see a question you like, definitely upvote it so we know that there's interest behind that question and we could answer it. And when we do, we're going to just hop on over to Spencer, which will take care of all the questions. Awesome. So let's get started. The first thing we want to look at is tracking business goal successes, right? So how do you know if AdWords is working for you? The first thing you want to do is definitely look at the data beyond just your clicks and impressions. Definitely knowing your clicks and impressions is very useful, but knowing what people are doing after they click on your ad is even better. So just so you understand, some of the concepts we're going to cover today are return on investment and conversion and everything associated with conversion tracking. Cool. So what are conversions? The first thing we want to look into is that who are the people that are converting? So conversions refer to the people who took a desired action based on your ad. So these actions could be anything from an online purchase, a signing up to a newsletter, or a phone call to your store, right? So what? By measuring conversions, you can see how many people are becoming your customers. And how we do this is that AdWords conversion tracking is a free tool that helps you measure this for your account. And it's just done by implementing a little snippet of code, which we'll get to later on. Awesome. So why do conversions matter? Conversions help you understand your return on investment, or ROI. You'll see this topic coming up throughout the slides. So ROI is typically the most important measurement for advertisers because it shows you the real effect that AdWords has on your business and your business goals. So for instance, say you want to know your cost. For an example, you're spending around $100 to produce each product, but you sell it for $200. We'll run through this a little bit more in depth, but assuming we sell 6 products from your AdWords campaign, we're going to try and calculate what your return on investment will be. So if we want to measure return on investment, we want to separate out the cost that it takes us to produce the product, the total AdWords campaign cost, and then the total sales. So if we produce 6 products at $100 each and sell each of them for $200, we will have a total production cost of around $600. We'll have total sales of around $1,200, and then your total AdWords cost or related campaign cost of $200. So to measure return on investment, it's a simple equation where you want to add the AdWords cost plus production cost to get your total cost and subtract it by total sales, and then divide it by your total cost again, which is your AdWords cost plus production cost. So if we're looking at this, in this specific example, we would add the total cost of your related campaign cost plus the total production cost and subtract it by your total sales, and then divide it all by your total cost again. And then you want to multiply it by 100 to make sure you're getting a percentage. And in this particular example, selling 6 products, your return on investment is 50%. So this is what you're making of every dollar. So this all takes us back to why are we tracking conversions? Like, why is this important? First, conversion tracking allows you to connect your ads and keywords directly with your business goals. Conversions show you which keywords are helping you meet your specific goals by connecting them to actions and results after the click. Also, it allows you to spend your budget more wisely. If you know which keywords are bringing you the most business and which ones don't, you can make smarter investments in those high-performing keywords. So if one keyword is bringing you a lot of clicks, but not necessarily a lot of conversions, you could then budget more wisely. So there is a lot of data associated with conversions that you will see in your account. So we'll run through them and what they mean and what each of them tells you. So conversions alone basically tell you the total number of all conversions made within your chosen conversion window after an AdWords click. It lets you see if your campaign is generating results for you or not. A converted click is the tally of every AdWords click that resulted in one or more conversions within your chosen conversion window. It basically allows you to gauge how many clicks are leading to valuable actions for you. Conversion rate, this is more so the percentage of clicks that have actually turned into conversions, and it allows you to measure how often a click leads to a conversion on average. Also, cost per conversion is basically your total cost divided by your total conversions and allows you to see how much on average you're paying for a conversion or what the average conversion cost is. So I know we just covered quite a bit of information, so I want to send this over to Spencer to answer any questions that you guys may have posted. So Spencer, on you.
Awesome. Hey guys, my name is Spencer and I'll be answering some of the questions you guys submitted earlier today and the live questions as well. So just to get started here, I want to start with a question that Jack submitted. He asked, when adding negative keywords, does he add single keywords or should he add phrases? And then in addition, he also wants to know when setting up negative keywords, what's the difference between setting them up at the ad group or the campaign level? So it depends on what you're trying to achieve here, but more often than not, you want to add pretty specific negative keywords, unless you're actually trying to show up universal, or you're not trying to show up universally for a phrase. So a perfect example would be if you never wanted to, if you were a Petco or a big business like that, and you never wanted to show up for keywords like family or shoes or other products like that, you're safe in adding the negative keyword just shoes, because never are you rarely ever going to be advertising for shoes. But in other instances, you want to be more specific with the negative keywords you add. So you could be adding phrases that are very specific to words or phrases that you don't want to show up for. And then the difference between adding them at the ad group or the campaign level is just referencing previous sessions that spoke to account structure. You're more likely than not going to have multiple ad groups within any given campaign just to subsegment your products or services. So if you apply a negative keyword at the ad group level, you're only going to not show up for the negative keywords pertaining to that ad group. So say you have ad groups referencing dining room tables, and then you have another ad group referencing sofas, etc. Maybe in the sofas ad group, you want to add dining room tables so that you don't trigger the other ad. If you apply it to the ad group level, it's only going to pertain to that ad group as opposed to applying it at the campaign level, which will apply to any ad groups within that campaign. So the campaign level is going to be more of an umbrella. Ad group is going to be a little bit more specific when you're adding those negative keywords. Another good question submitted by Mark here is, what sort of users' actions cause your ads to appear? And it's going to be pretty dependent on the campaign type. So for example, if you created a search network only campaign, a user would actually have to trigger your keywords or type in your keywords in a search query to have your ad show an impression. If you're running a display network campaign, dependent on your targeting, with the display network, it's a user kind of passively scanning the internet, maybe stumbling upon your ad on another website, a blog, or things of that nature. If you are running a remarketing campaign, your ad is only going to show to users on your list who have already been to your website. And if you're running a video campaign, your ad is really going to only show on YouTube search, whether that be an in-stream ad or on the display network embedded in other videos, YouTube videos. So those are the types of actions that would cause ads to appear, and it's really just dependent on the campaign type that you have set up. I'll pass it over to Danny to continue what she was going over here, and we'll be back with more questions later.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Spencer. Those were all great questions, so I'm glad we were able to touch on those. So now we're going to move on to actually implementing and setting up conversion tracking because there are different sections of it. So I want to make sure we talk about them in detail. The first one we want to look at is the conversion window. So the conversion window allows you to determine what time period you want to track a conversion for. So to choose how long after an ad click you want to track a conversion for, you will do this through the conversion window. So you can select anything as short as 1 week or as long as 90 days. So what this means is, say someone clicks on your ad, browses around your site, and then leaves, but comes back within 30 days and then buys something. This will be attributed as a conversion if your conversion window is 30 days. The next thing we want to look at is the count menu, or what consists as an actual count. So choosing your count menu, we have two options. We could either count all conversions or unique conversions. The difference between one or the other, we do get this question a lot, is basically to what extent do you want to track a conversion? So for example, say a user goes to your site, purchases 3 items, and checks out. If you're counting all conversions, this will count as 3 conversions. Instead, if you're counting unique conversions, the same user that purchased 3 separate items, because it was 1 user, this will be 1 conversion. So because of this, all conversions is usually best for sales, while unique conversions is usually best for leads. As for conversion value, here is where you determine what a conversion is worth for you. So you can choose whether each conversion has the same value, different values, or if you prefer not to count a value at all. You can set this up in your account, but for instance, say each lead for you is worth around $5. You could assign a value of $5 for every conversion lead you receive. And the last thing is the code snippet that we talked about earlier, which is how we can make the code and conversion tracking work. So it's super simple. All you need to do is add the conversion tracking snippet, which is just a couple lines of HTML and JavaScript code to your web page. So when we're setting up conversion tracking, it's very important that we actually look at where we want to put the code snippet, because you will be putting this in an actual page within your site. So it has to be placed on the specific page you want to track to make sure you're tracking the right results. So for instance, if you're tracking website sales, you want to make sure you're putting your code snippet in the thank you page after someone makes a purchase to make sure that you can track that they went all the way through to the end. If you're tracking newsletter signups, you want to make sure you put the tracking snippet at the complete page after the signup for your newsletter has happened. Same thing with lead generation. If that's what you're tracking, you want to make sure the code snippet is at the submitted page once they filled out the lead form. This is exactly what the conversion snippet looks like. Once you've completed the conversion on your account, it'll take you to this page. In here, you can either save the instructions and tag, email it to yourself to directly implement it on your website, or you can always email it and send it to your web developer if they're the ones that are doing this for you. Now, tracking phone calls as conversions is a bit different, but it could still be done. So to track phone calls as conversions, you have to make sure you're using call extensions to add a phone number to your ad. So you can track phone calls as conversions. Now, to make sure we can actually count them and attribute them back to AdWords, you have to take advantage of using a Google forwarding number with your call extensions. A Google forwarding number is basically just a number that Google assigns to your ad, so that on our end, we can make sure that when someone is calling that number is because they saw that number on your ad, as opposed to just getting it from a friend or from a different source. So I know we just covered quite a couple questions with implementation. So I want to send this back over to Spencer to answer any more questions you guys may have.
Great. So I have a few really good questions sitting here. One from Susie specifically, and I know this is a question Danny and I get all of the time. How do you avoid having competitors click on your ad and waste your budget? Well, a little known fact with AdWords is that we actually have two what we call invalid click filters. The first one is going to be proactive. So a filter is going to go through and proactively kind of filter out the clicks that kind of have come from sketchy user behavior. The proactive filters won't show in your clicks report. They won't be attributed to any data within the account. And you won't actually see them unless you add what we call the invalid clicks column. So if you're on your All Campaigns tab and looking at all the campaigns laid out, you can add an invalid clicks column to see what percentage of the invalid clicks the proactive filter filtered out. In addition, any clicks that slip through the proactive filter can actually be caught by the retroactive filter. And the retroactive filter are maybe clicks that you were billed for, but retroactively the system has gone through, deemed them invalid, and credited your account for those invalid clicks or that non-valuable user behavior. And you'll see those clicks in your transaction history within your account if you're looking at your billing settings. And then lastly, another option that you can do as a preventative measure is within the campaign settings, you can actually exclude IP addresses. So if you know a specific IP is really causing you some issues, feel free to block that IP address within the campaign settings to prevent those invalid clicks from happening. Great question, Susie. Another question from Jennifer here is, how do I know if my ad is showing and how do you end up on page 1? So those are two different questions. I'll tackle them one by one here. You can know your ad is showing by doing a search for yourself on Google, although that's something that we don't usually recommend and a mistake people commonly make for two reasons. One, it's going to affect your campaign statistics. For example, anytime you trigger your ad, an impression is going to serve, but you actually probably won't click on it because you don't want to incur the cost. So that will affect your click-through rate. You don't want to have a low click-through rate, so avoid doing searches for yourself on Google search. There's a tool within AdWords called the Ad Preview and Diagnosis tool, which is great. You can find it at the top of your account by clicking on Tools and then going down to Ad Preview and Diagnosis. This is actually going to replicate an external search that you would do on the Google search network anyways. So for example, the first portion would ask you to type in a search keyword or a phrase. You would enter your keyword there that you're hoping that your audience would be typing in. And then you would click preview. You do have the option to narrow down your targeting, devices, etc. Via the Ad Preview and Diagnosis tool. But this is the tool you'll want to play around with to see whether or not your ad is showing in real time. And then the second portion of Jennifer's question here is, how do you end up on page 1? And this is another common question that we get often. So ranking is going to be a factor of both your quality score and your CPC bid. So you want to make sure that both of those are in the highest or utmost position to get you to show up on page 1. You have a few options when you're playing with your max CPC. You can set up manual bidding, which would allow you to go through one by one and change your max CPC on an individual keyword level. Or a really popular option that we like to use as well is called a flexible bid strategy. Flexible bid strategy is something that is actually automated, so it's a little bit easier to maintain. You'll find it in the shared library, bottom left-hand corner of your account there. Shared library, if you go to bid strategies and then underneath that click view, you want to set up something called target search page location. With this bid strategy, you have the option to tell the system that you really want to bid for the top 3 positions, so the top of the page, or just anywhere on the first search results page. And it's nice because you can set kind of a ceiling limit so that the bids don't go too high and beyond your means. But you can also kind of show up and have the system optimized to where you want to place, whether that be only on the first page or in the top 3 positions. So there's manual bidding, and then we like to use flexible bid strategies over here as well because it's super simple to set up and it's automated. Great questions here. Keep them coming. I'm going to hand it back over to Danny to continue on.
Thanks so much, Spencer. Yeah, those are definitely great questions. We definitely hear them often, so it's awesome that you guys are asking them. Now, we're going to start talking about understanding your performance, which goes back to a lot of the questions we just received. So when you're going into your account and trying to get an idea of how your ads are performing, it's important that you look at, yes, of course, your conversions, but definitely a lot of other factors that could be influencing your conversions as well. So we're going to take a deeper dive into the status, the click-through rate, the average cost per click, and average position. So regarding your status, this basically stands for what your ads are, if your ads are running or not, and it'll be defined within the structure, right? So at the campaign level, you'll have different statuses than within the ad group level, ads level, and keywords. So status change at all different levels, and it's good that you are looking through all the levels and seeing what's going on in every single phase. So at the campaign level, the status column for all online campaigns tells you whether your campaigns are active or not. and whether they're limited by budget. As for the ad group status, this lets you know whether your ad is active or not and if your ads are running. For ads, the status signals whether or not your ad is active and the reasons for the status. So you can always go in and the status will reflect the changes that are made to your ads or the campaigns, whether or not the ad has been approved based on our AdWords policies. As for the keywords, the status will basically tell you whether your keyword is causing your ads to appear or not, and if they're paused. And you'll always see one of the 3 following changes for keywords. It's either going to say it's not showing any ads, it'll say your ads are showing, or it'll say it's not showing because there's an issue with your account or keyword. So definitely go in and see if your keywords are triggering ads. As for click-through rate, so this is a very important metric that we always recommend everyone looks at. It is the rate at which your ads are showing versus what people are clicking on. So it's calculated by dividing your total clicks by your total impressions. This is a great indicator of your ad's health. So it tells you how many people are interested in your ad and visiting your site as a result of actually seeing your ad on Google. The search network is super strong, so we always recommend that when looking at your click-through rate, you try and get it to be at 1% or higher. This is a great benchmark. It could definitely differ amongst different industries, but always try to get it to at least 1%. As for CPC, or average cost per click, this is the average amount you've paid each time someone clicks on your ad. And usually the average CPC will be lower than your max CPC that you've set. As for your average position, this specifies on average where your ad is appearing on a Google search results page. So this gives you a sense of how visible your ad is. A position 1 all the way to position 11 can appear on the search results. And this is because there are ads that will be shown on the top of the page, all the way along the side, and even at the bottom. So these were just very simple status updates. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and we'll just send this over back to Spencer.
Great. So just a few questions here in terms of measuring your ROI and your performance. Joe asked a question, how does he know how his ad is comparing to competitors? That's a great example, and there's actually a tool within AdWords called the Auction Insights Report that you can use to see what kind of other domains you're competing against in similar auctions based on your campaign settings, and kind of the opportunities that you're missing with those competitors. So for example, if you're in your keywords tab and you go to the Auction Insights Report, you will see that if you run the report, it will give you a long list of domains that are in your similar industry or in similar auctions as yours, what percentage of impression share you're missing out on average, what your average position looks like, some CTRs of those other competitors and things of that nature. It's a great tool to use to see kind of where you stack rank against your competitors. And in addition, you can also use the ad preview and diagnosis tool like I spoke of previously, just to see kind of where you're placing in real time and who kind of is outbidding you or outperforming you just in terms of a simple rank. So Auctions Insight tool is a great tool to use. There's a lot about it in our Help Center, the AdWords Help Center. So I definitely recommend checking it out and just kind of using that as another gauge of your performance within the account. Ben also submitted a question. So how can I improve my ad? While we're talking about click-through rate, I think this is pretty important because there are some tweaks that you can make within your ad to kind of improve the performance. One thing that's pretty important with ads is click-through rate. So some things that we see impact click-through rate pretty heavily are just the simple utilization of some of our ad extensions, call extensions, site link extensions, things of that nature. Site link extensions, a little known tip, actually expand your ad dimensions when you show up at the top. And those site link extensions just give viewers the opportunity to navigate more easily through your website as opposed to going directly to the homepage. Maybe they want to just go to the About Us page, or the contact us page, products page, etc. So site links and those other extensions definitely tend to increase that click-through rate and therefore also improve your ad performance. In addition, just if we're talking about ad creatives and text ads, you want to add things like calls to action and take into consideration the devices people are looking for you on. So another popular thing that we like to recommend is if you're really trying to show up on mobile devices, make sure that you're adding calls to action like call now for more information or call us anytime to learn more. If you're looking for leads to a website, maybe you put something like a call to action, contact us for more information, or reach out to our business to learn more. Things like that, calls to action tend to work really well hand in hand with those ad extensions are two things you'll definitely want to consider. And then lastly here, Elizabeth submitted a question. How can I find keywords that would be most useful for my blog? There's another tool within AdWords called the Keyword Planner. That's a really great tool. It actually allows you to put in kind of trigger words like blog or cooking blog or things like that, and input your target settings, location, networks, things of that nature. And it'll actually spit out not only keyword ideas, but ad group ideas and campaign structure ideas as well. So the Keyword Planner is a great tool just to kind of get some insights and some metrics on not only potential keywords that you can use, but some data behind those as well, potential impressions that you would get, potential clicks, how much exposure, etc. And that can be found within the AdWords account under Tools and then down to Keyword Planner at the top of the account there. Great questions, guys. Feel free to keep submitting these live questions, and I'll hand it back over to Danny to wrap up.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Spencer. Yeah, those are definitely a lot of questions we get often and touching on those more advanced topics. So one thing we do definitely want to remind you of is to make sure you make campaign improvements a habit. We always recommend logging into your account at least once a week to get a snapshot of your statistics and do a quick pulse check. Remember, you can view performance data at different levels, as we talked about, and different details of the account. So always check your campaigns, ad groups, ads, and keywords, and see how they're all doing. You should use the performance metrics we've discussed to basically understand what works and what's not working for your account, what tweaks to improve your account, and basically invest in the ads and what makes it more effective, right? Going back to what we talked about at getting clicks as opposed to conversions. And just a quick review of everything we covered today. We talked about reviewing key performance metrics regularly to gauge your success and how your campaigns are doing. You want to define a desired advertiser action as a conversion so you're able to track value after that click. You want to implement conversion tracking to more appropriately track the return on your investment, and ultimately implement call extensions with call conversion tracking to track phone calls from AdWords. So thank you guys all so much for tuning in today. Thank you, Spencer, for taking the time out to answer all these questions. I hope you guys feel more comfortable implementing conversion tracking, and definitely feel free to call our support line if you guys have any further questions.